There we go, about that much. That was absolutely phenomenal, really. That was so satisfying. You have no idea, especially with that sound also. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing an SMD soldering tutorial. It's more of a couple of techniques that you could use and see which one you prefer and how you want to go about doing it. So the reason why I'm doing this is obviously if you've been watching my channel, we're going to be doing a lot of debug and repair videos on flight controllers and other drone components and possibly some other random things when I get a chance to. So today's video is just going to be soldering SMD components. We're going to do resistors with solder paste as well as solder here, just normal solder, so you can see which way you prefer the most. Now solder paste melts at a lower temperature, and I've gone ahead and did two here, and one of them, the top one, is with normal solder and the bottom one is with the solder paste, and you'll see which one you'd prefer the best. You know what, enough talking, let's just get started. So first of all, these kits come on Banggood, and the reason why I chose this kit to be exact is because it has some nice microcontroller units other than the default stuff like the diodes, capacitors, resistors, and all these things. It does have some pretty nice SMD components, especially this one here. And this is very useful when you want to switch out the F4 microcontroller units, F3 microcontroller units, or the F7 microcontroller units. So this will do us a very good, it'll give you a very good idea of how to go about doing it. We can do both. We can do it with thermal, we can do it with solder paste and just normal solder. Now what we're going to be doing also is practicing putting it on and removing it, putting it on and removing it, so we can get a hang of how to repair flight controllers. So this is very good practice and a very good place to start. So let's get started. First, let's start out with a capacitor there. We're gonna start with the biggest and then move our way down and then take it from there. So depending on how long the video is, we'll see what we're gonna go through. So capacitor and resistors are basically the same thing. So we're just gonna add a little capacitor here. So what I like to do before adding capacitor, now we're going to do it with the solder method here. Alright, so the camera is fixed into position and we're going to start with C8, which means capacitor 8. So let's go ahead and get one of the capacitors ready to be put on. Now be very careful because these can easily fly out and you could easily lose them. So try not to open the whole box here. So as you can tell, I just opened one. Now we're just going to flip it over and there's the little guy. So we have to be extra careful not to push him, and I already lost where he is there. We'll put him right in the middle right there. Alright, so what I like to do is I like to take, since I'm right-handed, I like to go with my right hand first. So I would just add a little bit of solder here. There we go. And I'm using pretty thick solder for this actually. It's 0.8 millimeters. You want to use a little bit smaller if you can. So next step is you need some tweezers, and I do highly recommend these tweezers. I'll leave a link to them down below. If you wanted to get some, you get a nice little package. So try not to grab it straight forward up like this, because if you do that, it'll just immediately pop out and just fly out of your tweezers and you won't find it. So yeah, try to come in at an angle, like a very low angle, and then you could use some of your fingers to kind of keep it leveled. So now we want to go ahead and set it up here, and let's just go ahead and melt some of this. Okay, that's fine. Make sure you heat up the capacitor also, so it does get a nice connection as well. It can get kind of messy sometimes. Alright, so that's good. That's beautiful. The other side's easier. Since I'm right-handed, I'll flip the board over and I'd come in with solder and I'd just go ahead and apply heat and then just a little solder. Just have it drip downwards from the capacitor to the pad. And there we go. We get a nice little job. It's not perfect, but that'll do the job absolutely fine. So now the next step, what are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and get some of the thermal paste. Now I don't have a syringe for mine, and what I'm going to use is I'm going to go ahead and use a toothpick. So, and you don't want to put too much here, so let's go ahead and set this up. Okay, so that might be even a little bit too much. What I tend to use is the other side, and I'll just clean it off. But that'll immediately just dissipate. So there we go, we got that in. So again, since I'm right-handed, I'm gonna have this side come out here because I'm gonna come in with my right hand on the soldering iron. Now some extra tips to take note of here is when you're going in to solder something like this, make sure you rest your forearms and you're in a very comfortable position. You rest your forearms right on the table's edge here. So this way you can get a better solder and your hand becomes a lot more stable that way. So right now I've got the capacitor and I'm going in for the solder. There we go. So here you go. What's so cool about the thermal paste here is you could just drop it and maneuver it to wherever you need it and just kind of come back in and just hold it with some pressure, just a little bit of pressure, and just touch it and you're good to go. That's what's so cool about solder paste. Now you can go ahead and fix this. Maybe we should fix it. There we go. Beautiful. And now same thing goes for the other side. If you don't want to go ahead and play with your solder paste, you can just go ahead and even hit it with a normal, normal solder. So there we go. We're gonna come in and hit this guy. There we go. That might have been a little bit too much here, but that's fine. Now all I have to do is just come in with my soldering iron and just touch that right there. And just keep it for a little bit. There we go. So I really do like this solder paste here because it does have flux in it, and that's why it just makes an absolutely beautiful solder joint if you know how to solder correctly. But yeah, other than that, they're perfect. So we have the second one and the fourth one here were with the solder paste, and then the other two was with just normal solder. So that's all done and set with. So I think we should move up to these guys here because these guys are very important. Now a nice technique is to set up usually either one pin or two pins at the edge just to get it perfectly centered so you can go ahead and hit this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get just the normal solder. We're going to do this with normal solder. And I will make mistakes. This thing is not that easy and it takes a lot of practice. So I'm going to go ahead and just add solder on one of these pads. And obviously two will pick up. Okay, that's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and do it on this one as well. There we go. All right. Okay. So now what we need is the SMD component. Now you have to know this. You see a dot right there. Well, that dot indicates that's where the dot on this guy would be, which should in theory be that one there, hopefully. And let's just double check this. Yeah, I think it's that one. It has to be that one. So if it's not, it doesn't matter because this board doesn't do anything. All right, so what we want to do is we want to line it up. Now with thermal, why do I keep calling it thermal paste? The solder paste, it'll be a lot easier because it'll kind of stick into place. And you can also use some Kapton tape to kind of hold this thing in place, which is really recommended. But for this one, we're not really going to do that. So as you can tell, I'm turning the board around slightly so I can get a better grip on it because I come in with my right hand to solder. So now what I want to do is I want to just apply a little bit of pressure, and obviously I already moved it. And you want to try not to move this guy. There we go. I think that's perfect. Okay, and it should be just that simple. And we just need to do a little bend here. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and solder the other corner here just to get a nice little grip into place. Okay, so that should be in. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay, now you can choose any way you want. Now I highly recommend at this step you add some flux, because this way it'll allow the solder to go in its correct place. So I'm adding some flux here, and let's go ahead and do this together. So we added some flux. So I'm just going to bend the solder here because it's not in a comfortable position. And one of the main things is just to be absolutely comfortable. Don't try to do this when you're not comfortable. So this is what I wanted. Okay, so we have bridging now. As you can tell, those bridged over there, but that's totally fine. I wanted that to happen because I wanted to show you the process of how to kind of remove it. Now you could always try to push away like this, and we got most of it out, but we still have those two over there that are bridging. So the next step would be to do is to get some solder wick, and let's go ahead and grab some. Alright, so I've gone ahead and grabbed some solder wick here, and what you want to do is you want to just place it, hold on, let's just move this guy right over the place you want. So for example, we bridge that area, and what this will do, this will just eat up the extra solder that was there. Could eat it up all. So as you can tell, it took, once it focuses, it took that solder out. So we can come back in and hit it very gently. But what I want to do is add a little bit of flux, just a tiny bit of flux here. There we go. And it could still be good. I mean, we'll take a look at it right now. Let's just see. I think it did already have some solder left. So maybe we'll just hit it just a tiny bit just in case. Okay. Alright, that's beautiful. That's one side done. So that went pretty good actually. It doesn't always go that easy. So I'm very happy that that came out that way. So it's very nice. So now let's go ahead and try this side here with the solder paste. So that's going to be way too much here. It's probably going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to have to probably use the solder wick, yeah. So it's highly recommended you have some kind of this is quite a bit too much here, but you know, let's go ahead and do it and see how it'll do. I'm using the other side kind of like as an eraser. All right, so so now all you need to do is just come in. So yeah, it was a little bit too much, but that's fine. Yeah. Alright, as you can tell here, we do have some bridging. Not much. Just some. We're going to try to just clean up the tip and come back and hit it and see if we can clean that off. Sometimes a little flux would fix that up. Sometimes, not always. Okay, so those right there are a little bit stubborn, these guys right here. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of flux again, see if that'll fix it or not. If it won't, then I'm gonna go ahead and my soldering station kind of just got disconnected. There we go. So yeah, I'll just add a little bit of flux, and I want to see if that'll fix it. Sometimes it'll fix it, sometimes it won't, and you'll need to use the solder wick. So there we go. And I'm soldering at 360 degrees here, Celsius. Yeah, it's not really doing much. Oh, well. We managed to get everything to this corner here. So that's really nice. That'll make it a lot easier. So now let's go ahead and grab the solder wick again, which is this guy here. I'll leave a link to everything down below if you're curious what to get, or if you don't know what to get, that's the word. So there we go. I'm just gonna line it up here. Okay. I'm just gonna come in. Now you need to know something about solder wick. It gets really hot. So if you have your finger like mine, it gets pretty toasty actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the tweezers here. There we go. Alright, so now let's just take a look at this. I'm gonna add a little bit of flux right there. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and just hit the rest with some solder. I don't think it really needs much solder, but just in case. So I'm just gonna add a little bit on the tip here. Just like that. Okay. Beautiful. So that went very nice. Okay, there we go. And what we're gonna do is, I think we'll zoom in on the microscope and take a look at this. So now let's do this side with some just normal solder. Okay, so I'm gonna use Flux. It's really nice to use Flux. It really does help. I'm just dipping it. I'll leave a link to this brush here. It's really nice, tiny brush. Everything here is like absolutely cheap, so you can get started for super cheap. Just add a little bit more Flux. Now it's really important to clean out the Flux because it kind of corrodes things and it makes it very dirty. So let's go ahead, and this time we're gonna do it different. We're gonna add a little bit of solder on the soldering iron here, and we're gonna use that to try to do everything there. So I think that went pretty perfect, actually. Yeah, that was really nice. You see how the Flux really just helps? Absolutely phenomenal. So that was a really nice technique right there. So let's try that again, actually. I really did enjoy that. That was really satisfying. So add a little bit of Flux. There we go. Now we're just gonna add a little bit of solder on the tip here. Make sure it's clean. Cleaning the tip is very, very important. Maybe we might probably put a little bit too much this time. Oh my goodness, that was so satisfying to watch. We have a little bridge right here, which we actually solved. Really nice. Yep, looks good. That looks absolutely phenomenal. So there we go. It's not a professional job, but it's a pretty damn good job, actually. I'm proud of myself, I must say that. I'm just kidding, guys. So you can see it's kind of dirty. That's from the Flux. We could clean that out with alcohol or something, so you could be totally fine in that perspective. I do have some Flux cleaner also. We'll check in that in a little bit. So that's the way to set these guys up right here. So that was a really nice tutorial, actually. It really worked out better than I expected, because these things are very unpredictable. So I don't know if you guys want to do it. Let's just do one more and then practice removing it. Let's go ahead and try to do this one now. So let's just do the same thing. Let's just add solder to just a couple pads here. So okay, there we go. Same technique as last time. All right, nice. Let's go ahead and grab the IC, the microcontroller unit, or whatever this one is. Okay. All right, let's find the dot. There's the dot right there. So I'm gonna keep it like this so I can easily solder. So we're gonna say it goes like this. All right, we're just gonna make sure it's kind of aligned. And make sure you take your time. You're not in a hurry. It's very important to have it aligned perfect, or almost perfect. Okay. So that's really good. You could always bend it once you get one side soldered in, but you have to be kind of pretty close or almost spot on. So let's just worry about that pin over there right now. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully it went in pretty good. So it's kind of misaligned, as you can tell right there. But if we go ahead and push it like so, they're all kind of misaligned. So let's actually redo this one. We need to push it back a little bit more. Make sure it focuses. There we go. Okay, that seems perfect. So I'm just going to hold it with my hand here because it seems really stable. All right. Oh, that's perfect. I haven't done one of these in so long. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of solder on my soldering iron. Make sure it's clean. There we go. About that much. That was absolutely phenomenal, really. That was so satisfying. You have no idea, especially with that sound also. Alright, so we're going to do this one with no flux. This might prove to have a little bit of headache. Now, this does have flux inside the solder. So let's see how well this works out. So we're going to add a little bit of solder like we did. And we're going to come in. See, it's not as... the flux really just sucks the solder in like it's a black hole or something. It's just really nice. So as you can tell here, it wasn't as good. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of flux right here. There we go. I'm going to add just a tiny bit on this guy. Let's go ahead and hit it. This is insanely satisfying. You guys have no idea how satisfying that was. Alright, let's just do another one. So this is getting a lot easier for me already. So there we go. Alright, so we're going to add a little bit of solder. And I'm using the TS100. Again, I'll leave a link to everything down below that I'm using here. That is just so gorgeous. Surprised I don't have to use the solder wick that much. Alright, we're going to do one more. I'll give it a little bit of extra flux here. So any flux would actually work just fine. This is what I have on hand. And if you want to get the same thing as me, you can go ahead. I'll leave a link to that as well down below. So we're just going to add a little bit of, let's clean the tip. Cleaning the tip is very important actually. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of solder here. Maybe I've added a little bit too much this time. Yeah, I think I did. I'm just going to clean that off. Come back for this one here. So we might have to use some solder wick here, and that's totally fine. That's totally normal. I'm just going to try to add a little bit of flux here. See if I can remove that. Nope. So yeah. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and grab it. Now, this thing kind of got dirty, so what I recommend doing is cutting that off, the dirty part off. There we go. Just having a fresh tip. Sometimes some people would add even flux to this if you wanted to. It makes it, you know, work a lot better, or a little bit better, a little bit easier. Now with flux, my whole board is very sticky now. So there we go. Just going to put it on those two right there. Was it those two? Yeah. I don't want to take the solder off everything. There we go. And I think that's perfect. Yep. So that was absolutely phenomenal here. Really beautiful. Really nice. So now removing this guy. Well, removing this guy, I personally wouldn't even try removing it. I mean, you can remove it without a hot air gun. And I think I'm going to leave the removing part for another video, because this video might be a little bit too long for some people. So I think I'll have that in the next video where we go ahead and start removing these components. And I'll probably find another board that has a lot of components next to it, which we could start removing. Because here it's really easy, because we weren't really worried about where our hand was while we're soldering. Because usually there's a little capacitor next to this guy or something next to that guy. So it's a little bit kind of, you know, scary sometimes. But this one was just, you know, just to practice, just to get a feel for it, get your technique down, see what works with your equipment. And this was the whole idea of this tutorial here. And, well, that's it, guys. I think that's going to conclude it for this video, guys. I think it's gone a bit too long here. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys want more of this kind of content, please let me know. I'll go ahead and start preparing the removal video of how to remove these components. We can go ahead and check out a couple techniques together, and obviously you can choose whatever way works out best for you. And, well, that's it, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions or any suggestions, feel free to let me know. Everything is linked down below. And that's it, guys. So I'll see you next time. See you guys. Take care.